Okay, Mataji. Okay, then we'll start with the prayers today. Hare Krishna, everyone. Do you want to start streaming or how do you want to do it? I think it's streaming now. Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Uh, please welcome to one more session, the daily morning Bhagavatam session that we do. Uh, so we'll first do prayers, then we'll go through the verse, and then we'll try and discuss, understand whatever little we could understand from this. So we start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे Hare Krishna everyone. Let me share my screen and then we'll start with the verse. Okay. I think it is share. This is giving so much trouble. Okay. So I'm assuming everyone can see the verse and the screen that I'm sharing. So the verse today is from third canto, 27th chapter, verse 14. So first we'll read the verse, then we'll talk about whatever we understood from this verse. So here is the verse. Bhuta sukshmendriya mano buddhya adisvaiha nidriya lineshva asati yastatra vinidro nirahankriyaha bhuta sukshmendriya mano buddhya adisvaiha nidriya lineshva asati yastatra vinidro nirahankriyaha. So synonyms: bhuta, the material elements; sukshma, sukshama, the objects of enjoyment; Indriya, the material senses. Manaha, mind. Buddhi, intelligence. Adishu, and so on. Iha, here. Nidraya, by sleep. Lineshu, merged. Asati, in the unmanifest. Yaha, who. Tatra, there. Vinidraha, awake. Nirahankriyaha, freed from false ego. We'll read translation and the purport. Uh, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be free from the false ego. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the five material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, the material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. Purport. The explanation by Rupa Goswami, the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, of how a person can be liberated even in this body is more elaborately explained in this verse. The living entity who has become Satyadrik, who realizes his position in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may remain apparently merged in the five elements of matter, the five material sense objects, the 10 senses, and the mind and the intelligence, but still is considered to be awake and to be freed from the reaction of false ego. Here is the word lina. Here the word lina is very significant. The Mayavadi philosophers recommend merging in the impersonal effulgence of Brahman. That is their ultimate goal or destination. That merging is also mentioned here. But in spite of merging, one can keep his individuality. The example given by Jiva Goswami is that a green bird that enters a green tree appears to merge in the color of greenness, but actually the bird does not lose its individuality. Similarly, a living entity merged either in the material nature or in the spiritual nature does not give up his individuality. Real individuality is to understand oneself to be the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. This information is received from the mouth of Lord Chaitanya. He said clearly upon the inquiry of Sanatan Goswami that a living entity is the servitor of Krishna eternally. Krishna also confirms in Bhagavad Gita that the living entity is eternally his part and parcel. The part and parcel is meant to serve the whole. This is individuality. It is so even in this material existence when the living entity apparently merges in matter. His gross body is made up of five elements. His subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, false ego, and contaminated consciousness. And he has five acting senses and five knowledge acquiring senses. In this way, he merges in matter, but even while merged in the 24 elements of matter, he can keep his individuality as the eternal servitor of the Lord. Either in the spiritual nature or in the material nature, such a servitor is to be considered a liberated soul. That is the explanation of the authorities, and it is confirmed in this verse. So, we'll try and share little understanding, whatever we have from this. Um, it's a very powerful verse. Um, there is a lot of content here which could be spoken for a long, long time. For those who know it and those who want to share it. See, a couple of things stood out for me here. Let me share another one. I was reading an article in preparation to this from Back to Godhead magazine. Uh, so, so here, very it talks of liberation and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as you know, right? It uh, let's see if that verse is right here. So this is the verse here from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So what Srila Rupa Goswami is saying is, and what is Prabhupada saying in that verse is, those who are engaged in material activities while being present here, they can still be liberated. And then he explains how they can be liberated. The way of liberation is that uh, as soon as one is engaged, irrespective of what is going around, if the person is engaged totally in the thoughts of bhakti, uh, thinking about the Lord, remembering the Lord, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, the dham, nam, all these things. The person, while he is there, and Srila Jiva Goswami's example is also very apt. He talks of a green bird. Think of a parrot, a green bird entering a tree. It's not visible if you look at a tree, and there are parrots sitting. I don't know how many of you have seen a parrot actually sitting on a tree. When a parrot is actually sitting on a tree, it's very difficult to locate the parrot. But uh, when you look carefully, because of the beak, we can sometimes make out because they have very colorful red beaks. Um, so they have red beak, and that is how they become little visible. But otherwise, for all practical purposes, it's very difficult to locate them, separate them. So they look part of the tree, but they are still different. That is what Srila Prabhupada also explained here, that while we are in the material world doing all these material activities, we might all look, or somebody who is a bhakta, who is reached that stage of bhakti where he is totally engaged in the service of the Lord. Um, he might look to be part of the material world all around, to 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 external eyes, but he may not be part of it. He still has his individuality, which is visible, but then he is uh, that individuality is, servitor of the Lord. So he is liberated. Uh, he does not aspire for liberation. If you if you remember, or if you try and recall, um, when we came to this bhakti marg, before that, liberation was one of the goals. People wanted to get liberated, or at least you would hear um, Mayavadi philosophers and all. They all talk of liberation. Um, but then when we read, when I was doing Nectar of Devotion, and then um, Shatrupa Mataji was teaching it, part of Bhakti Shastri course, and then in different sessions, lectures from different uh, very elevated speakers who have a lot of content and who have given a lot of thought on the matter. This verse came out, and it kind of, I was thinking that this is uh, in context of this particular verse that Srila Prabhupada was talking about. There are some contents from here. Somebody who is in the path of bhakti, uh, it gives six things. So, but those who are actually in the path, they don't aspire for liberation. They don't want liberation. All they want is Krishna Prem. So, so liberation becomes a byproduct. That is what Srila Rupa Goswami says, liberation is not the goal. It is, you know, because it goes and merges into uh, the the Brahman. That is why those who are in the path of bhakti, they don't aspire for liberation. They may look, people who are doing bhakti, they may look part of the material world, but they may not, but they are not part of it. The material body that they have, the physical body that they have, it is a means to get to serve the Lord. Uh, there are some, I also remembered while reading this interesting article and couple of lectures that I heard. Let's see if there is a very interesting. So this verse from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So here, let's see what is Srila Rupa Goswami, right? He's saying Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat Pisachi Hridivrte Tavat Bhakti Sukhastra Katham Abhuddhito Abhyudayo Bhavet. So this is a very interesting verse. Here, Bhukti and Mukti, desire for Bhukti and Mukti, they are considered, they are kind of compared to the Pisachi. Pisachi, I don't know if all of you know what is Pisachi. Pisachi is like maybe captured here, witches. So they are compared to witches. There is a very good background story around this verse and what it led to. So when Srila Rupa Goswami, when he was writing Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, so he was creating all these verses based on his own realizations and thoughts. He was writing it, and at that time, uh, Srila Jiva Goswami had reached Vrindavan. So he was there in Vrindavan with him, and he was acting as a assistant to Srila Rupa Goswami, reviewing and maybe editing if there was a something to be edited, though there was hardly anything to be edited, but he was there. And then a very learned, so at that time, what used to happen was a lot of learned scholars, right? They would travel from one place to another and they would do Shastra. So Shastrarth is discussion based on Shastra. And then they would ask questions to each other, and whoever is not able to answer, they would just say that okay, I lose, and then you know uh, they kind of become. They have to. The process was that somebody loses to somebody in Shastrarth, they would have to become disciple of that other person. So anyway, in this context, Shastrarth was not happening, but a learned scholar was was closer to Vrindavan. So when he came there, so he heard about Srila Rupa Goswami. So he went there and he was generally asking how are things, how what are you doing now? So Srila Rupa Goswami spoke about this verse. Then this is the latest that I have drafted. What? Why don't you look at it and then give your thoughts? So the scholar, I'm not remembering the name of the scholar, but if I go back to some references, probably I'll be able to find the exact name of who that person was. What do you think? So that person says, why are you? So he read it. Then he said, no, there is a mistake in this verse. Srila Rupa Goswami said, okay, what is the mistake? So he said, you have compared bhukti and mukti to pisachis. You're saying that bhukti mukti is like witches, which is not right. Uh, uh, and then he went. So Srila Jiva Goswami was listening to this. He got very upset. Uh, so he went looking for that scholar, found him near the banks of Yamuna, and then he did his namaskar, and then he said, uh, you are a very good scholar, but you did a mistake. So that scholar was like, okay, how did I do a mistake? So he said, this was the verse, Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat Pisachi Hridivrte. You said Bhukti Mukti are compared to Pisachis. But that is not what it means. It means the desire for bhukti mukti is compared to pisachis or witches. So what you told my uncle was wrong. So that person understood. Oh, this person is not an ordinary uh, child. I mean, he was a young man, Srila Jiva Goswami at that time, just a student. That he is not a common young man who is just resisting. He is a very learned scholar. And Srila Jiva Goswami had been to Varanasi and he had learned all the grammar and everything else before he came to Vrindavan. Sanskrit grammar. He was a acharya. He had learned from acharyas of Sanskrit. So, so finally he went back, that scholar, and he said, "I think I committed a mistake." He went to Srila Rupa Goswami and said, "I committed a mistake. This is I think I compared Mukti and Mukti to witches, but it should have been desires of those two witches. So I accept my mistake." Um, So Srila Rupa Goswami understood that somebody went to tell him because he would not have understood. So he asked Srila Jiva Goswami, "Did you go and tell?" So Jiva Goswami said yes. So then Srila Rupa Goswami got angry. He said, "You are not fit to live in Vrindavan. Get out of Vrindavan." So then a lot of story happened in between. Srila Jiva Goswami went. He was living in a cave. He dug a hole in the on the outskirts of Vrindavan in the land, and then he was living there for a couple of months. He was eating only one time a day. Uh, so then finally, Sanatan Goswami requested Srila Rupa Goswami to let him come in, and then he came in. And then that is when Srila Rupa Goswami realized that probably there is a need of nectar of instruction. So nectar of instruction was written out after this incident for Srila Jiva Goswami, saying these are the instructions that you should follow if you are living in Vrindavan or if you are in this path of bhakti. This is how you should behave. That is how the nectar of instruction or bhakti, Updeshamrita as we hear it, came out from. So a very interesting backstory. I mean, people. I was listening to Hari Parshad Prabhu. He spoke about it for like 2 hours. I kind of just condensed it to probably 7, 8 minutes. Um, so yeah, so this verse, this thought of liberation, uh, has a very significant uh, importance in the life of uh, we Vaishnavas, and this is how from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, while writing Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, where Srila Rupa Goswami was comparing desire of Bhukti Mukti. So the Mukti is the liberation, desire for liberation, desire to enjoy a material world. Uh, that is how nectar of instruction came out. So let's read this, the translation. The material desire to enjoy the material world and desire to become liberated from material bondage are considered to be two witches, and they haunt one like ghosts. As long as these witches remain within the heart, how can one feel transcendental bliss? As long as these two witches remain in the heart, there is no possibility of enjoying the transcendental bliss of devotional service. So, vice versa, if somebody has devotional service in their heart, then desire for liberation and desire for material enjoyment goes away. Um, so, for us, for all practicing devotees, while we are here and we are doing our duties, responsibilities, um, if we try and focus more, if we try and give more time thinking about Krishna and doing some part of devotional service, while we are all in the material world, the desire for liberation, uh, or all these material things which are around us, they will not impact us so much. The goal is that they don't impact us, but at least we can get started on that path. I'm looking at the time. I'm sure many of you have meetings around from 8 onwards. So if somebody has anything to share, feel free to. Otherwise, we'll try and stop at 8 o'clock. Okay, so if there are no thoughts, then well, I wish everyone a wonderful day, and then we continue listening to Bhagavatam, thinking about it, thinking about the Lord. And while we are doing our regular things, we, as long as we can try and cultivate this feeling, we'll still not be too much impacted by it. So with this, we'll close the talk today. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very wonderful explanation. What to think about and what to desire, everything is so nicely explained. And also with the past stories from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.